Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. Paul Jasson with you. Another beautiful day in downtown Lancaster as we begin taping today. Pleasure to have you with us in the beautiful confines of the lobby of Fairfield Federal, where in this past summer so many things have gone on. We certainly think about the festival, all the Friday night bandstands behind us, the movies they show on a weekend night are just getting enormous anymore from Destination Downtown. Everybody involved in everything downtown has just been a wonderful summer. And now as we head into the fall, lots going on. You know, the fair time in Lancaster is just an amazing thing. And I think for many of these events that we talk about here, one of the agencies that you see a presence there is the Fairfield County Sheriff's Department. Pleasure to have with us the Fairfield County Sheriff, Alex Lape. Alex?
It's a pleasure to be back. I appreciate the opportunity to visit.
Well, the Sheriff's Department visibility, I'm sure, is a big part. You hope your services aren't needed, but perhaps just your presence out there sometimes you hope would deter something.
Well, that's the first step in law enforcement is presence. So sometimes that can have an effect that just makes for a pleasurable event for anybody and everybody. And you know, we try to get out to about every event that goes on within the county. So.
Here we are, 3/4 of the year done. As you look back under the first 9 months of the year, thoughts, good, bad, things, what you expected?
Well, pretty much what I expected, but you know, I'm never satisfied with the status quo, so I always have to throw some logs on the fire, so to speak. And we've undertaken a lot of different projects and programs.
Really? I suppose that's it. You're always moving differently.
Yeah. You know, continuous improvement's kind of my motto. So I think that sometimes I might bite off a little bit more than I can chew, but so far I've been able to swallow it. So
what's the deputies now on duty? I mean, how many do you have?
110.
Is that up to par? Because with the city, in terms of fire and police, that's always an issue.
Well, you know, one thing that is different about the sheriff's office versus a police department is we have to operate the county jail. In 2019, for an example, in 2019 we had one corrections officer and the rest of the staff were just deputies, PATA certified deputies that worked in the jail. Today we have 42 corrections officers. So having the ability to be able to hire corrections officers has allowed me to move the PATA certified deputies out to the patrol. So our staffing has stayed pretty well over the time. You know, I think right now we may be 3 or 4 folks short. And then in the entirety of the operation, there are 170 employees. So that includes the civilian employees.
Administrative people.
Yeah, work in the civil office, and they do the sheriff's sales, the subpoena processing, all the court documents.
All important things.
Yeah. So they make sure everybody gets paid. That's important. And you know, we do a lot of new things that has never gone on in the sheriff's office here in Fairfield County before. Body camera is a big thing. That takes a lot of time and a lot of hours are spent.
Technology is a big deal. Well, and I'll get on to that. We might as well talk about that a little bit. Technology upgrades. That's something that probably it just never stops in your area.
It hasn't seemed to stop. It's been pretty fast, and it's kind of sometimes like drinking out of a fire hose, so to speak. The body camera stuff, and when that goes live, and then folks in the public become aware of the fact that it's available, and then they make requests, and under the sunshine laws we have to provide that information, which sometimes is a daunting task. If you have 4 deputies on a scene and they're all taking body camera, you have to go through each one of those, and the High Revised Code outlines what needs to be taken out and redacted out of those body camera videos. So it just takes a long time, you know, and we have to have the appropriate software to be able to go in there and view that video and blank pieces of it.
It wasn't just buying a camera and move on.
Right, and when you first think of the idea, just put a camera on. Well,
why doesn't every cop have that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. One of the things we see all the time, and I'm sure TV drives a lot of people commenting on the job you do, good or bad, but one of the things we see, unfortunately, are schools and the issues with people going into schools and doing bad things. And I know you, behind the scenes, we don't always see that, but that always assessment of the job you folks have to do just on a split-second notice. You hope you never have to, but you need to be ready for that.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time with training at the sheriff's office. Our policy is we follow the SORAT model, which is a single officer response. Mm-hmm. We don't stand by and wait for backup to get there. If there's an issue, there's an active aggressor within the school, we'll respond immediately, hopefully to contain or negate that threat. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that effort that goes into our training regimen that we go through annually. We provide that same kind of training in the school too for the schools. But in 2020, there was a new House bill that was passed. It's 123, and it's Save the Students Act. That's how it's termed, and it requires the schools to do a lot different things, different things than what they've done in the past as far as planning. And it has some language in there that involves law enforcement in that planning process. And part of that is the threat assessment piece that, fortunately, in our county, there's been several collaborative partners, stakeholders within the county that are involved in trying to standardize that process. The threat assessment teams, I think in the past, were more of like a district-wide team. Now each building has to have their own threat assessment team, so it's expanded exponentially as far as who gets trained and how to do these assessments. And we're looking at trying to resolve problems with students before they become problems with this new approach. So there's mental health services, there's all kinds of different people that are involved in this threat assessment program that we're trying to put underway.
And again, we only see it at the very end sometimes on TV. I mean, that's right. Thankfully, we haven't had that around here, but I guess that's something where you just drill, and you think, and I hope we're on top of it.
Well, I think Fairfield County has always been really proactive in that respect. Mm-hmm. We've always been involved with the schools. We've always had the opportunity. The thing with this new House Bill 123, there are several different recommended models that school districts and threat assessment teams follow. Mm-hmm. They all have the same effect or the same end result, but the vernacular that's contained inside these plans are different. So our effort in Fairfield County is, with the help of Judge Vandervoort and some other players and people at the ESC and the school superintendents, is to get a standardized plan with standardized forms that we all speak the same language within our county, which I think right now there are 4 or 5 different plan models to achieve this threat assessment goal. Part of that also has to handle with CARE piece of that same legislation, and what that is if we know that there's been a traumatic incident within the county, we share that information with the schools now so that they know that this particular student may have been exposed
on the
to
same
something.
page.
So it's a huge piece in the undertaking to get this kind of, I guess the best word, standardized in the way that we did that years ago under the guidance of Judge Vandervoort, mm-hmm. who was then the law director with the domestic violence policy. And she took the bull by the horns and got this thing standardized throughout our county so that every law enforcement agency did things the same way. And that's critical, really, it is.
Fairfield Today, it's a pleasure to have on with us Fairfield County Sheriff Alex Lape. And I was looking at something, and I don't know if that's part of this threat assessment you've talked about, but the Community Response Unit, is that a separate?
The Community Response Unit is separate from the threat assessment, but they're involved in the preparation training that we do for active aggressor in the schools. So far this year, they've done 300 presentations throughout the county. Okay. At different locations. They've done presentations at the Pickerington Senior Center, at Olivedale, at Fairfield Federal. They've done active aggressor trainings. They've done senior scams training. So they have a pretty wide variety of things that they're subject matter experts in. The folks that are assigned to the community response unit are all members and tactically trained, and they're instructors, so they know what they're talking about when they're speaking on a particular subject. They're versed in investigations, having spent time through the Detective Bureau. So the minimum years of experience for a member of the community response team is 20 plus.
Oh.
So they've been around a while and they've done a lot of things. And you know, one of the members of the community response, Deputy Tiffany Hedrick, is our defensive tactics instructor. So she's one of the gals that I try not to make angry with me, because twist me up like a pretzel maybe, but
I know Tiffany, and I get it.
yeah, so she's like, oh, it's your turn to come to training here, buddy. So
And you attend.
yeah, and I go, so just don't hurt me, because I need to do something tomorrow.
Sheriff Alex Lape with us, and of all the things we've talked about even in our short time so far, we've talked about a lot of things. I know you feel very strong about fiscal management. That's important, that you do the right thing, and that the community knows the Sheriff's Department is utilizing the money that they've given you to do the things they want done.
Right. So part of that is to continue to use some of that money in such a way that we're going to continue to enhance the service that we provide to the citizens of the county. And I think we do and have done a good job with that, with creating different programmatic things and offering those out to the community. And so building off of that, so I've gone back to my command staff and supervisory group, and we've started basically doing a business 101, which I can honestly say a lot of law enforcement agencies, and the sheriff's office is probably guilty of this in the past, we really haven't looked at the books the way that we should have as far as what we're spending on. And a lot of times that boils down to such things as overtime. Is it being managed in the best fashion? So a lot of times if there's a vacancy, they just would automatically just post overtime for it. So my goal is to, unless it's operationally necessary, we're not going to just throw overtime at a vacancy. We need to look at who we currently have on duty, and can we still operationally function within officer safety guidelines and things of those nature. So it's more critical thinking. And the bottom line is that's exactly what it is. But at this point in time, since January to currently, we've cut our overtime expenses dramatically.
Yeah.
And that allows us to help pay for some of the other programs that we're doing, that we can then utilize that money in our budget and provide some stuff, that service-oriented things to the community. So
Sheriff Alex Lape is with us. Got about a minute to go, and I wanted to just touch on, recently we had Dan Bouzon, who is a Lions Club member from Millersport, the Millersport Sweet Corn Festival, enormous presence in Lancaster and Fairfield County, and I know you folks have a tremendous presence up there, but that's just kind of the big picture thing. But you guys hit fairs and festivals all around the county.
Yeah,
just to be there.
Yeah, just over the past weekend, we were at the Amanda Fall Harvest Festival. We were at the Smeck Park Festival, and we had the Luke Bryan concert going on at the same time. So
Which is a big event.
It was a big event. There were 20,000 plus folks that attended that particular concert. So, and we provide all the security. We work with the EMA. We have the command truck out there. We're all working together as a team with fire, and it's awesome to see a plan like that come together. But we always make an emergency operations plan for any of these bigger events, and they all seem to work out. But the collaboration and the teamwork is what makes it happen.
I suppose that's the key. It takes a village, and whether it's the state level, the city level, the county level with other agencies, y'all got to be the same team.
Yep. And we have really good relationships in our county in that respect.
We're fortunate here.
Yep.
Fortunate to have Alex Lape as our sheriff. Thanks for joining us. Always good to have an update. We always enjoy hearing, the many things that you folks do down there. Great job. Thanks to you and your staff, administrative, on feet on the ground kind of people. Good job.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll be back on Fairfield Today.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference. Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
The staff that have been here know what it takes. They've been on the other side. They see what it takes to make someone comfortable, to make the family comfortable, and really what kind of support they need. And so I think that's what really makes Fairhope what it is.
Dagger Law has more than 110 years of experience in nearly every aspect of the law. When we're not just helping clients, we're helping the community. You'll see us at festivals, sporting events, and around town because we live and work here too. We are your neighbors, and we want to help you when you need it. When we help each other, we're stronger. Our community is stronger. Creating a strong, vibrant, healthy, and safe community is everyone's responsibility, and we take the responsibility seriously. We are local, we are trusted, we are experienced.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Certainly want to thank Sheriff Alex Lape. Always good to hear an update from him or Nick Snyder with the police department or the fire department, any of the agencies that do such a great job here in Lancaster, Fairfield County. And as well known, obviously, as the Sheriff's Department are, there are many nonprofits and agencies around that aren't as well known. I wanted to talk about one of those now. It's called Angel Works, and that may not be a name that's familiar to you, but hopefully at the end of this segment you'll be a little more grounded in what that's about. But their mission is to raise awareness and funds to help kids with cancer. That's what they do. That's why they're here. I've got the president and founder of this organization, Angel Works, Ellie Height. Ellie, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I was fortunate enough to hear you speak a couple of weeks ago about it, and I had never heard of Angel Works. I know there's a lot of organizations that do great things with people and with diseases and things like that, but I was particularly struck with the job you do because it's really a grassroots organization.
Absolutely.
At a very difficult time when you get involved, because there's a reason you're involved. It's kids with cancer, and a lot of, we know, bad things come with that. But I one of the stats that I saw there is each school day, 46 children are diagnosed with cancer. Each school day. It's the number one killer by disease, more than asthma, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, congenital anomalies, and pediatric eggs combined, more than all those combined. I don't think people know how many kids have cancer.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's one of our main goals currently is to try to raise awareness. You know, I think with awareness, then better funding, giving kids a better chance at survival will happen if everybody just really understands what's needed.
And I think one of the things we'll talk about, you need people to help in lots of different ways, anywhere from volunteering to donations to corporate donations to gift cards. That was one I particularly thought of was interesting. Mm-hmm. You always have a need where you can help a family if people donate gift cards to different things.
Sure, yeah. I actually met with a mom yesterday that we had helped at different points in time. Her daughter unfortunately passed earlier this year, but she was talking about how helpful gas gift cards were because they live in Bremen and they were having to drive to Nationwide Children's every day. So not having that extra expensive gas, she had said, you know, was just very helpful.
And one of the things, and a very difficult, and I even think it's difficult perhaps for you to talk about, is helping families with funerals. And you've assisted over 1,000 families with this, and that's not an inexpensive event.
It is not inexpensive. So we have 8 programs. So we have a lot of programs that help families just with general expenses like gas cards and grocery cards. But certainly our hardest program to keep funded is our funeral program because funerals are so expensive. So right now we are having about 3 funerals every month. So not quite a funeral every week, but it's emotionally very heavy and very expensive, very difficult. I'm just constantly asking people to get out their checkbooks and and donate money.
It's what you do.
It is.
It is what you do. And another one of the things we talked about, gift cards, and for almost anything is useful to you. But another one of the things when you talk about needing people is volunteers. And one of the things that someone could do if they were so inclined would be to sponsor a funeral. Mm-hmm. And that may sound perhaps kind of morbid, but it's something that is really needed.
Right. And it is the reality of childhood cancer. I realize, places like St. Jude, they try to make childhood cancer look really fun. Little bald-headed children running down the hallway giggling. Mm-hmm. But that truly isn't the reality. I understand why they do that. But I have a personal belief that at this point in time, we have to start showing people the reality of it. Mm-hmm. Because there are 12 major childhood cancers and hundreds of subclasses. And all of those childhood cancers share only 4% of our country's cancer funding. So we don't have enough research happening for our children. So we're giving so many of our kids. Vincristine is a very common chemotherapy that almost all kids with cancer at some point in time end up getting vincristine. And it was developed in the 1980s, I think, or it could have even been a little sooner. So we're giving our kids really old drugs just because we don't have new drugs being developed. Mm-hmm. And we can do better. We're the greatest country in the world. We can do better than this. The majority of cancer research funding for adult cancers comes from our federal government. The majority of research funding for childhood cancers comes from organizations. It comes from lemonade stands and people trying to raise funds to help them. And I think certainly any adult that I have talked to typically goes, wait a minute, I would be willing to take less funding for an adult cancer to cut the pie a little differently, reallocate funds, and give kids more funding. But that's just part of the awareness, right? We need to get that out. We need to let people know so that can eventually happen.
Ellie Height is our guest today. She is president and founder of AngelWorks. Their website is myangelworks.org. And again, their mission is, as Ellie spoken of, is to raise awareness and help with funding and volunteerism and everything that goes with kids with cancer. And how about a little bit of your background? Obviously, this is perhaps an interest that turned into a more than full-time job, I'm sure at times. How did this kind of pop up in your radar?
So I got on this path by accident. When I founded AngelWorks, it was just a Christmas program. It was only ever supposed to be my Christmas hobby. I have a Christmas obsession and I really like giving Christmas gifts. So I founded AngelWorks just as my way to give families that needed Christmas presents gifts. And one day I was driving to work and I got a call from a young man named Joe Friend who
pictures on the website.
Yes, his photo is on the website, and he completely changed my life. I was driving to work and I answer, and there's a young man on the other end of the phone saying, I know that you don't know me. My name's Joe and I'm dying. And I know my family doesn't have any more money left. I battled osteosarcoma for a long time, and somebody gave me your number and I need help trying to pay for my funeral. And I was completely blown away. I didn't at that time know how to have that kind of a conversation.
Sure.
And I met him and his family for dinner a couple nights later, and I instantly fell in love with him. I think anybody that ever met him instantly fell in love with him. And it's funny, most kids with cancer are that way. There's something so special about them. And so we kind of spent the last months of his life going to radio stations and high schools and churches and anybody that would let us in the door for him to tell his story, talk about childhood cancer statistics and how unfair they are, and try to raise awareness. And when he passed, he asked if I would continue doing it. So I already had AngelWorks. We just changed our bylaws and made our focus just helping kids with cancer.
So I guess be careful what you wish for. You get involved and all of a sudden now just a kind of a Christmas thing a couple months a year is 24/7.
Right. And actually the first few times that we paid for children's funerals, I don't know if you've ever been to a child's funeral. Kids' funerals are hard. It's like a punch in a gut if you see a little child's casket. And just my personality is I get very involved. A lot of times I go to the funeral home with the family. I want to really support them in the entire process. And I would go to work the next day proclaiming to everyone, I'm not going to pay for another funeral again. Like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how this is what my life is becoming. And then I ended up, after I had made that proclamation, I had a young girl in my community. So she lived in Lithopolis, but went to Bloom Carroll schools where my kids went. And she was diagnosed with cancer. She actually passed away only 30 days after she was diagnosed. She died from the treatment. The chemotherapy that we gave her actually killed her, which unfortunately happens with a lot of our kids. And she was in my community. Like, I couldn't not help. So I paid for her funeral and helped with her funeral. And then I just realized I just needed to throw in the towel. And I knew for whatever reason, this is what I was supposed to do. And our funeral fund actually is now named after that little girl. So her name is McKenna Maley, and she was just a really, really special little girl that unfortunately got cancer, and she died the day after her 11th birthday.
Do funeral homes know when parents come in that you're a resource, or is that something that's ongoing? You're always trying to get that message out there?
Yeah, so it's not so much that funeral homes know, but the children's hospitals throughout Ohio know. So it's
because it's been there before they get to the funeral home part of it.
Yeah. So it's the caseworkers or the social workers that typically notify me. So if it's a family at Nationwide Children's, chances are I already know them, and I've maybe worked with them before with our other programs. Sometimes, like if Akron Children's calls me, I might have never met the family, and we just jump in and try to help.
And I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, and that's something I guess you're trying to get the word out is cancer's bad. Lots of bad things. Lots of people get cancer. But of the funding, only a very small percentage, I think 4% of the big pie goes to help children. And I guess you're trying to get the awareness out there that maybe we should cut that pie a little differently. The pie will get bigger. We know that because cancer is a monster thing. We see football players wearing pink, and all kinds of cancers get recognized, but maybe not as much as pediatric kinds of cancer.
Right, yeah. Our kids realize, they recognize, even our young children, that breast cancer and what they would call grown-up cancer is splashed everywhere. And it seems to be very important to people. And then that makes them feel like their cancer isn't important. And unfortunately, in their little minds, that equates to their lives are not as important as grown-ups' lives. And certainly that isn't true. But it's the way that they view it. Gold is the childhood cancer ribbon color. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. I don't think very many people know that. I shout it as loud as I can all the time. If I'm in the grocery store and somebody says, hey, what's the gold ribbon for? I try to tell as many people as I can reach in the grocery store. And it's starting to catch on. It's starting to catch on a little. We every once in a while, NASCAR had a car with a gold ribbon. So it's slowly, the ball is starting to roll. We just, we need to make it roll a little faster.
Well, we've got about a minute left, and I guess that's what we're trying to go. MyAngelWorks.org, your website, is that the best way to contact you or to contact your organization?
Absolutely. If you go to our website, then there's a email button. You can send an email. It comes directly to me. My cell phone number is on our website. So yeah, if they go to our website, they can definitely get in touch with me.
Donations of all types, whether it comes from volunteering, whether you give gift cards, whether you want to help donate money, whether you want to sponsor a funeral, anything is available out there, and it's all on the website. It's a really good website. Lots of good information.
Thank you. Yeah, and we are registered 501c3, so donations are tax deductible.
So if you want to learn more about this, the best place to go is myangelworks.org. Ellie, thanks for joining us. Good information. We'll have you back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Ellie Height with My Angel Works. Again, myangelworks.org is the website. And we'll be right back on Fairfield Today.
My name is Allie. I just became 14 years sober at the end of last month. Through the support of my family and friends, I got the courage to ask for help. And through treatment services, and the recovery community, I was able to start my recovery journey. Now I get to work as a peer supporter and an addiction treatment navigator, where I get to help the next sick and suffering. If you don't have family and friends that can support you right now, you can find those supports through treatment providers, the recovery community, and peer supporters like me. Every life matters, and your recovery is worth it.
This message is brought to you by the Fairfield County Adam H. Board.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our two locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Paul Jasson with you. Nice to have you with us on a beautiful day in Lancaster and Fairfield County, and a kind of a wonderful fall time of the year. It's great to be with you. One of the opportunities that I had recently, I got to hear a young lady talk about recycling here in Lancaster and Fairfield County, and it was really interesting, more than I thought it would be interesting. My bar was perhaps kind of low on that, but I learned so much, and I thought it was so good, I thought I'd get her on and have her share with us today. Carrie Murphy. Carrie, welcome.
Thank you.
You're officially the educator for Lancaster Fairfield Community Action Recycling and Litter Prevention.
That's what they call me.
Big old title.
Or the kids call me the trash lady.
The trash lady. Well, we'll do better than that, but that's a good one. I can see how the kids talk about that. Again, I heard you speak a couple of months ago on recycling and some of the things going on. You're located, your office out, Community Action out on East Main?
Yep, right on out East Main Street, right across the soccer fields.
Yep. That's a big deal anymore. I know obviously for the last couple decades, maybe kids been getting in on this. I know they save things, they do things, they tell people, icebergs are melting. We learn all kind of information in school. And one of the things that struck me that you were telling us about what recycling is, but you also talked about what recycling was not. There's a lot of myths out there about recycling.
A lot of myths right now. So the biggest myth that we get when people are calling into the recycling center is it really being made into something?
Yeah.
They see the videos on Facebook saying that it's just getting thrown away, it's getting dumped.
Well, it must be true if it's on.
Must be true if it's on the internet, right? Well, not necessarily. In some cases, it is true. So,
Yeah.
like in bigger, in states like New York, some of their recycling programs, they get hired out by China. So they send their materials across the ocean.
heard
It goes
that.
to China,
I've
and
heard
then that material, we don't know what goes with that.
Sure.
But it's not true for our facility in Fairfield County. Our facility, we support local businesses throughout the state of Ohio. So all of your shredded paper is being made into toilet paper. Your plastic bottles is actually being made into PVC pipe that's supposed to be sustainable up to 100 years. So it won't degrade, it'll hang on, it's really durable stuff. So we have a lot of paper mill factories, plastic factories in Ohio or in Kentucky that they actually take that product and make it. We don't make products in the Fairfield County, we sort all the materials. So we are essentially the first step of recycling. In your home is the first step, but we're the first step of sorting everything out and then shipping it to the factories, and then they are responsible for making it into their jeans or bottles.
One of the things I know, and again, I think you just kind of discussed that there, the Kiwanis Club I happened to be in, we were on a big push, and I think it was in a grade school, they saved plastic bottle caps. And I've seen some of these, we actually have some around Rising Park. They're make them into benches.
Yes.
But again, I think that was over in Indiana. And again, everybody saves them and they gather them, but then you don't do that here, that it's sent away. So stuff like that is done in other places. So it's still important to save that kind of stuff.
For sure. It's very important to save that stuff. I mean, we still do the bottle cap collection program. We are always looking for organizations to pick up that program.
Really?
Yes. So if you are a part of an organization that wants to sponsor a bench, call the recycling center. We have hundreds of pounds of bottle caps already sorted, ready for you.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Ready for you to take them up to either Wadsworth, Ohio. There's a factory in there that makes the bottle caps into benches.
Okay.
Or in Indiana.
No, I think ours happened to be the Indiana
was
one.
it.
Maybe
Yep.
timing was it.
Green Tree.
So if somebody is interested in contacting you, I know they can call. We'll get the number, but it's faircaa.org.
Correct.
That's it.
Yep.
And then I was looking at the website. Tons of information.
Tons of
Yeah.
information.
I suppose you're always updating it. And
Yes, I am in charge of the website.
Oh,
so
nice. Well, you do a great job.
You get a lot of information on the website. If you ever have questions, go to the website. There's even a chat section, so you can shoot me an email directly, and I will respond within 24 hours telling you, yes, this trash can be recycled, or this is how you get rid of something.
We have this trash lady with us today. Just kidding on that. She mentioned that earlier. It's Carrie Murphy, who is the educator for Lancaster Fairfield Community Action Recycling and Litter Prevention out on East Main Street. I think we all know where that is, and that is one big operation that goes on out there. I don't know how many people you employ, but you guys work pretty hard on this sorting and stuff like that. That's difficult work.
We have about 7 employees right now that do all the sorting. Last year we sorted 7 million pounds of material by hand.
Man.
We don't have robots. We do this all
Yeah,
by hand. And
yeah.
it can be pretty nasty. Some people don't recycle the correct things. And so our employees, they see a lot of it. They see it all. But it's very important that we are getting this material pushed out. I mean, we turn around products very fast.
Now, I know you can take things out there and actually take bags of things, whatever you have, whether it's newspapers or bottle caps or any of the recycling things that are legit to use. But, and I didn't know this till just us talking before we went on, I know there's a recycling place not too far from me. It's right there at the Pleasant Township building on Coon Path and Pleasantville Road. Right behind it you have on that. And that thing, I guess, is perhaps even getting a little bigger.
It's getting bigger, so we added a new site in Pleasantville. It's behind the maintenance building,
Yeah.
and it's to take some of that pressure off of recycling at Coon Path, that location. So you can take your materials if you're at Pleasantville, or even if you're just driving through Pleasantville, you can take it behind the maintenance building. You'll see the big blue dumpsters, and you can recycle it there. Okay. Now, if you're not from Pleasantville and you're like, oh, I really want to recycle, we have 23 recycling
23 sites around. That's amazing.
23. Yep, we have them in Pickerington, Amanda, Pleasantville, Sugar Grove, anywhere. You can go to our website, find the locations there.
Addresses, they tell you everything.
Or you can just call me and I can pinpoint the closest location for you.
And that number would be?
That would be 740-205-8027.
And that's your personal
That's
number?
my personal, yep, you'll get me.
You actually get a chat with a real person on this.
That's right.
I just see recycling has grown into this because almost every day you see something on TV. Somebody's always talking about it. I'm sure, as you indicated, it perhaps all isn't 100% true of the time, but recycling is such a monster business anymore.
It's a very large business and it's conflicting, so it's not standardized. So what you can recycle, even in Fairfield County, if you had curbside pickup in Pickerington, they accept different materials than what we do at our residential sites. So it's not standardized and it makes it extremely confusing. So we're always trying to tell people, call us. If you're not sure, call. That's my job, is to tell people this is what you can and can't recycle. It's a beast, but it's a beautiful beast. It's not the most sustainable thing, though. The best thing you can do for the environment is to use less trash. Not everything can be recycled.
No.
People see the recycling triangle and they just assume that it can go in the bin.
Yeah.
They don't understand that that's a code just telling you what that product's made of.
Styrofoam or paper, I mean, because everything is, I think about even just my wife and I are the only two people in our house, and we generate a fair share, what I think is a fair share of trash, and I'm sure we don't recycle everything that could be. So I can imagine that people have children or several children or all the millions of businesses around. I mean, I guess it just never stops.
It never stops, but that's the joy of the recycling business.
Always
the
got
trash
job
business.
security, don't you?
Always have job security,
Yeah.
and everybody, I think we can go out and teach people, and until they actually see it and experience it 101, to show them and correcting them, sometimes they just won't get it, which is fine. Recycling is confusing, but we're here to help. What you'll see in one county won't be the same as Fairfield County.
Really?
So just always take that note. The general rule of thumb is plastics 1 and 2. So your bottles, your milk jugs, that usually can always be recycled anywhere you go. Anywhere you go in the United States. Paper products can always be recycled. Just read the recycling can before you throw something in there. If it says bottles and plastics only put bottles.
Everything's
and plastics.
labeled. I'm sure some
Yes.
people must be perhaps a little bit less literate than others because I see things that should be in another container or perhaps shouldn't be at all at this recycling point out on Coop Path where I go. But everything is well labeled, everything is marked off what it should be, and a lot of do's and don'ts.
A lot of do's and don'ts. Just knowing what's green
You don't
light,
take
what's
couches?
red light. We don't take couches. We
Really?
don't
Because that's
take
what I used to
mattresses.
see a lot laying around
Yes.
things and mattresses, and I guess it's a kind of a way station for, I don't know what to do with this. I know.
That's what happens, and that costs our program thousands of dollars
Yeah,
every year.
yeah.
I mean, we spend thousands of dollars throwing away people's mistakes, and that's why recycling's
Yeah.
starting to dwindle down in Ohio and across the United States.
Yeah.
Is because these programs are having to pay for your mistakes or your purpose mistake, and
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, I know.
So we really trying to tell people, hey, if you have a couch or something, take it to the landfill or call your trash company. They'll pick it up for you. You might have to pay $10, but that's the best $10 you can spend instead of hauling it to the recycling center and illegally dumping it.
Carrie Murphy with the Community Action, Head of Recycling. Got a couple minutes here, and I wanted to spend the last couple minutes on that talking about disposal of household hazardous waste. Things like paint, motor oil, fluorescent light bulbs, batteries. I remember years ago they used to have a day once a year down at the fairgrounds where I remember paint specifically, but that's the kind of day they had. They haven't had for a while. You still working on that?
We're working on trying to get a grant right now for the hazardous waste days. Right now they are very expensive. They're around $60,000 just for
Ooh.
one day.
Ooh.
So we're trying to find an opportunity to provide our residents for the county because it's a need. We get calls, hundreds of calls every month. How do I get rid of this?
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah.
times we don't have a solution.
Yeah.
I contacted an insecticide company the other day asking them, how do I get rid of this item? And they told me to contact the local recycling center. I am the local recycling
You know that
center.
number.
And I'm like, that's not right, the
Yeah,
right answer
yeah,
on that.
yeah.
So we're trying to find a way to get rid of it. But for general speaking, paint, you can dry it up. Put kitty litter in it, put newspaper in it. If it's full, dump half of it out in another bucket. That way it dries
And-
quicker.
yeah.
Once it solidifies, throw it away. Batteries. We actually accept batteries, little tiny household batteries
Yes.
like A's,
Yeah,
AAA's.
right.
We can take those to the recycling center.
Okay.
They need to be taped, the positive and negative ends. If not, they can spark fires. You can take those to the libraries too. The libraries have boxes, battery boxes that we provide for them. So that's a convenient area. All the libraries minus Pickerington. Pickerington does not have the boxes, but you can take your batteries there. And then fluorescent light bulbs is a brand new program. We used to have it. We lost funding for it. We got funding again. So fluorescent tubes, your CFLs, your LEDs.
You have to bring
can take
those
it.
to you, or
You have
or
to
is there,
bring it
there's not a
directly.
place, one of these stations don't have it out on East
No,
Main?
none of our stations will have it. You have to bring it out to our location on East Main Street. But you can recycle up to 5 light bulbs at a time, and that's a fabulous program because there's no opportunity for residents in Fairfield County to recycle their light bulbs. So they can bring them to the recycling center. We'll recycle it there for them.
So I guess the key is if you got a question, don't just hide it in the bottom of a trash bag or drop it off in the dark of night. Call you. The number again is?
It's 740-205-8027.
That's it, and the website is faircaa.org. Great website, a lot of information. Carrie, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Got an interesting job, to say the least.
It's
Every
fun.
day you never know, I guess.
You never know.
Carrie Murphy with us from Recycling. Do a great job out there. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.